Hey guys, Kingpin here. Welcome to the next episode of Franchise Mode. Today we're going to get right to the chase. Every single zoo on Earth has an entrance, and most entrances have a little pavilion next to them. That's what we're going to be working on today. We have this big beautiful exhibit called the Rainforest, which we spent the last 3 or 4 episodes working on, but we don't really have anywhere for the guests to stay. This zoo is called the Center of Primate Conservation. Humans are primates too, and without their donations, we can't really bring awareness to the primates that we're housing and help the endangered species. To make enough money to help the endangered species, today I have 3 buildings that I want to create in this area. Did you see how it had 3 sides? One right here, one above, and then one on the right. We're going to make 3 buildings. On the right side, there's going to be an ice cream parlor. On the left side, there's going to be the information center. And right down the middle over here, we're going to make sort of a gift shop type area. It's going to have a balloon stand and probably just a memento store. A pavilion like this is the very first thing a guest is going to notice when he walks into the zoo. Guests that like it spend more money. Think about any zoo, theme park, aquarium, or anywhere fun you've ever been in real life. The entrance of that place usually is the most heavy decorated and most heavily themed. The reason companies do this is because they know they can't undo a bad first impression. If they save all of the cool stuff and the best decorations for the very back of the park, you might not even get there because you might turn around and head back towards the exit before you arrive. This zoo isn't going to end up being the biggest. Remember, it's primarily focused on primates. So that being said, we can go really heavy on the decor. We can have tons of plants because we have 100% of the complexity meter to work with for a zoo that's probably going to be about 50% of the size of a normal one. One thing I've been pretty bad at doing, and I think you guys have noticed since the lack of the stuff from this channel that's actually in the workshop, is making my buildings but having all of the items in the building be a part of the same group. I'm really going to try to work on that today so I can put these buildings specifically on the workshop for you guys to have. I'm in the process of trying to convert the rainforest to be able to go onto the workshop, but the problem is I made everything in a different group, so I have to splice and merge them together, and I don't really think there's a quick way to do that, but I promise I'm working on it. That's why uploads have been a little bit behind lately. If you'll notice in the top right where it says Editing Group 172, that's what you need to keep track of when you're building a new area like this. Everything in Group 172 can be put on the workshop, and to get back to it, you just click on a building that's a part of it, like these 2 kiosks we just put down, and then you can easily access it from their menus. In these builds, I'm not going to be too worried about the interior design yet, because realistically, this is the only building that's going to have an interior. As you can see, we just made this back wall, and you can kind of see where the build's going to start to take shape. It's just going to have a little U-curve around the front of it, and this is going to be the front door. If I'm being totally honest, this is the first time I've ever attempted to build something like this. All of my experience in this game so far has been going towards making actual animal exhibits, not necessarily buildings from scratch. I can make a pretty good animal exhibit, and anybody can add the enrichment and the terrain modifications the animal needs, but making a real building for humans, that's going to be a little bit tricky to learn. Luckily, I think I ended up doing pretty good, so stick around to the end if you want to see the final product, because I think it's worth it, and all of it will be on the workshop in time, I promise. One thing that I will say, if you're building something completely from scratch, don't go in completely blind. At least in your head, picture or envision what you're going to be building. This makes things so much easier for when you're actually trying to pull it off. For example, I know I want this building to be 2 stories, but the second story is just going to be for show. This building's bigger than the other 2 are going to be, so this is almost going to be like a little watchtower or something that sees over the pavilion. It won't be functional and zookeepers won't be able to get up here, but I think it'll look cool and add a little bit of variety to these buildings, because we're going to be using the exact same palette from each of them. Another very small but important tip that I have is don't skirt on details. Details are what make or break builds, and without them, all you'll have is a box. So try to mix up the color palette. For example, what we're doing right now, we're using 2 different colors of wood. That may seem really basic and trivial, but trust me, it makes a whole lot of a difference. If we didn't use this other kind of crude looking wood, the entire building would just be one blob of modern looking wood, and that clashes hard with the rainforest, which uses the exact same thing. Later on in the video, we're going to add some trees and such to break up the path in between these things so you can't really see them both at the same time, but small little details like that matter. Don't cheat yourself out of a good build, and don't try to be lazy. Details are what can kind of tell the story of your build. I bet a lot of people have made an ice cream parlor in Planet Zoo. Heck, I bet a bunch of you guys have as well. But I bet none of you have made one exactly like this. I bet none of you have put this specific canopy on this specific wood color with this specific roof on top. As simple as it sounds, details are really what make your builds yours. Other than that, we'd all be playing the same game if you couldn't detail things up. Think about some old school tycoon games that you used to grow up playing. I played a lot of Zoo Tycoon 1 and 2 on the DS when I was a kid. Back then, we had one option for food places. We had restaurant, and there was a preset build. You couldn't do anything with it, and you might have been able to change the color, but even then, there were preset colors that you had to choose from. There was almost zero customization. So really take advantage of all the tools that you can use in this game. This game has pretty much Minecraft level customization, and we're really fortunate to be able to have it on a console now, so take full advantage. Alright, I'm pretty happy with this. Obviously I think there's still a little bit of work to do on it. We're going to have to detail up the outside of some signs for the building later on, just some ice cream parlor signs everywhere around, but I think it looks pretty good to start. Let's start working on the information booth now. This one's going to be a little bit smaller and a more basic build. Every good zoo has an information center. It's where you're going to get your maps, where you're going to learn about the animals potentially, you're going to get all the directions you need to go to, events that the zoo is holding. Pretty much anything that you could need to know is going to be answered in this building. So that's why it's going to be the very first thing you can possibly access once you get inside the zoo. They're really important to have close to the entrance, that way the guests aren't going to run around blind. To make this information center, we first went to a different group. If you recall, our last one was group 172. This is 171. So if we're going to put these buildings on the marketplace, the workshop, sorry, we could actually have two separate entries. This would be its own thing, and the ice cream parlor would be its other own thing. Another big tip that I've learned from my years of playing sandbox games is don't be afraid to delete what you've made. If you're playing a game like Planet Zoo and you're not either creating content or in some sort of contest, your build is done when you say it's done. If you're happy with it, it's perfectly fine by any standards. If you don't care about these builds at all and all you want to have is the basic buildings with the exposed insulation, that's perfectly fine. If you want to make your exhibits just the basic ones and that the game comes preset with, that's fine too. Nobody's telling you you can't. But if you're not happy with what you're building and you make a detail that you don't like, don't be afraid to hit the Y button and get rid of it. You have unlimited tries in Planet Zoo. You can do anything you want, and you're not going to be perfect the very first time you attempt something. If you make something and you don't like it, just try again. Nobody's going to judge you. Perfection takes time. One really nice detail I found while working on the construction of this build was these little trims that you can put around the side. To do this, have add to building and align to surface on, and they'll be perfectly aligned every time you try. For a new player to the console edition and Planet Zoo in general, one of the tougher things is just the sheer amount of stuff that you can add to a build. Take a game like Minecraft. I've been playing that since it's come out for pretty much my entire life. At least since I was probably 10 or 12. In a game you've been playing for so long, like I have with Minecraft, when you're building something, you know exactly what you want to put there because you know all of the blocks in the game. In Planet Zoo, it's a little bit different. There's so many different things in the game, and the game is still so new. Whenever I'm building, I always end up finding new things to try out. Heck, in this video, I found probably 2 to 3 dozen different things I want to try in other builds eventually. And I don't even have all the stuff unlocked yet. I still have to research plenty of it through the Mechanics tab. Try and explore and find different elements to build with every time. You might just find something you really like these trims. Call it foreshadowing if you will, but later on in the zoo, we're going to have gorillas and orangutans be some of the stars of this primate conservation effort. That's why I put them on the information center. Kind of making them like a pseudo-mascot, if that makes any sense. Alright, the pavilion is really starting to take shape now. We've got our ice cream parlor, we've got our information booth, now we need to get the gift shop done. And I have a plan for what to put smack dab in the middle of this thing right there. You guys are just going to have to watch to the end to see it, because it's going to be really cool. Spoiler, it's not a fountain. We already have one of those. One of my favorite parts about games like this is the growth you can tangibly see, and I didn't really notice it until I started creating content for you guys. The ice cream parlor probably took me 45 minutes to make. Between the speed ups, the cut footage, it took a little bit of time, especially since it's the biggest of these 3 builds. The information center, even though it's about half the size of this one, still took probably 20 minutes. This build took about 5. It was really fast, and it's not exactly small. Being able to tangibly see yourself actually improving is really cool. Since this build is really samey to the last one we made, I think today is going to be a good time for the question of the day. We've been slacking on it and haven't done it in a couple episodes, and I apologize for that. I want to know what else you guys want to see out of this series, whether it's multiple zoos, whether it's stick to one zoo. You can make your request very broad, like make a bunch of different zoos. Or you can be like, hey Kingpin, I want to have capybaras in this zoo. I know they're in the last one, but I think it would really fit the South America aesthetic. Any request you guys want, go for it. Drop it in the comments. Maybe I'll even shout somebody out in the next video if I decide to make it. Talk to each other in the comments. Try to make a new friend. Upvote ideas that you like. We're so close to 500 subscribers, and the start of a community is almost, you can see it pretty much. We're so close, we just gotta make that final push. Hopefully this video can be the one to do it. Alright, our gift shop is nearly done. Now we just need to slap the Just a Memento sign on the gift shop. It's part balloon store, part Just a Memento. That way, if guests don't want a balloon, they can get a toy from there, and if they don't want a toy from there, they can get a balloon. Everybody wins. And they spend more money, which we can then put to better exhibits. So far, this zoo is doing incredibly well. We're over 100 grand already. Well over it, in fact. We're still over it, and we've made this, and the time's been paused the entire time. We haven't had a profit stream coming in since the start of this episode. I'm really happy with how all 3 of these buildings turned out, and the best part is, they're only going to get better once we detail them up. This is the fun part of any build. Detailing is always better than making the core components. One thing I will say when you detail, as you can see in the top right again, we're editing group 172. If you remember from the beginning of the video, that was the first building we made. Just make sure that your group that you're editing aligns with what building you're doing. If it said group 171, that means, despite us putting something over here, it would actually be affecting the information center. So if we put it on the marketplace or the workshop, there would just be a random floating milkshake about 50 yards away from the building. You don't want to have that happen. It's really unprofessional, and people might not be happy with it. It feels really weird not making an exhibit in this episode. I've never made a Planet Zoo video before without making numerous exhibits. Heck, most of our videos we have 2 or 3 animals that we're dealing with. When we made our capybaras, we added tapirs in there. When we made the rainforest, we have 4 different types of lemurs and mandrills in there. It feels weird not having any animals at the center of this zoo. Luckily, the rainforest is a stone's throw that way because it's also the first thing you see in the zoo. You just happen to walk past the entrance to this thing first. Even though this is more of a filler type episode, it's still necessary. Just because there's no animals or biology facts in the episode doesn't mean we can't have this thing in there. Originally I was going to make this just the intro of today's episode and speed past the build process, but I thought you guys might be curious to see it. Every single person who makes content on this game has a different strategy when building, and that's what makes it so enthralling to me. Whether it's a person that has nearly 1 million subscribers, or a person who's just started out, or maybe somebody who's in the middle and their channel's just now exploding. They all have different strategies when they build and different methods to what they do, and it's really cool. I figured you guys want to hear what I have to say about it. I may not be the biggest, but I think I can add some valuable input. Now earlier we talked about detailing buildings, but that's child's play compared to what's going to happen next. This pavilion's going to look night and day different here in about 5 minutes. All you have to do to make one of the best looking centerpieces in the game is just take some stuff out of the construction menu and make a circle. It's really easy. All you have to do is use the bumpers and change the angle rotation. It makes a completely perfect circle and you don't have to put in any effort at all. Then just get some mulch and put it inside. After that, make a bunch of plants and kind of crazy patterns to make it look really natural. It's a perfect centerpiece, and it even adds some shade on a hot day. Remember, this zoo's in South America, and right now it's 108 degrees outside. That's pretty hot. I would like to stand under a tree if it was that hot here. But plants really make a zoo come together. Just look how weird the Just a Memento gift shop looks right now without any plants behind it. And then look at the rainforest over there and look how complete it looks. You don't just want to have a barren grassland in the background behind your builds. Having a few trees and rocks everywhere really makes a difference. You'd be surprised on how much better it would look just with some plants and greenery around. Since this zoo is in South America and we used South American inspiration for these buildings, we're going to make this area kind of have similar plants to the inside of the rainforest. Remember, the rainforest was modeled after Africa and South America on the inside, so no wonder these plants are going to be the same. They're in their home climate. You're not going to see pine trees much in this zoo, because that's not from this region. But look how much better this looks already. Now we just need to find other small details to put around. We'll add some trash cans, some recycling bins, some benches, some chairs, some picnic tables guests can eat their ice cream at, everything. What do you think you would need when you walk into the front of a zoo? Put yourself in this zoo. Pretend you just got here. Maybe you got a milkshake at our ice cream place. Would you want to sit down under some shade? Would you want to go to a picnic table? Do you wish there was an umbrella around? Maybe you're thirsty. Where's the nearest water stand? Make the zoo of your dreams. You can do anything you want in this game. Right now I'm messing around with this speaker because I don't want it to be eerily quiet over here. I don't think you'll be able to hear the natural sounds that our lemurs and mandrills are making from this far away. They're not the loudest animals, especially the lemurs who are inside. You don't necessarily have to, but I like to keep my pavilions kind of symmetrical. There's 4 picnic tables, 1 in each corner, and there's 8 benches on each side. That being said, you don't always want to have symmetry. For example, we're only adding umbrellas on 2 of the picnic tables. I think it looks a little bit better that way. You don't want your zoo to look completely perfect. You want it to look a little bit traveled and used. Not to say it needs to look bad, but at the same time, you want it to look like there's people that go here. Maybe the umbrella got taken down at that table. Adding a little bit of weathering and some wear and tear to your builds is a really good detail you can have, and it's like we were talking about earlier. Telling a story in a build can't really be that easy. Now we're adding a different type of planter, but instead of using the wood from the construction menu we did earlier, we're using these tropical rocks. They're the exact same rocks we used inside the rainforest, and we're taking heavy inspiration from the rainforest in this build. It's really going to bring the zoo all together and make it look like one uniform project instead of a bunch of side builds. We're just going to make planters, but instead of the wood, it's just going to be these rocks. Same mulch on the inside, it's pretty much the exact same as we did before. Even though it seems simple, the pavilion's going to look so much better for it. The only thing that I want to add that I don't think we'll have room for is a big welcome sign. I'm not really sure where we'd put it. Maybe on the side of the rainforest right there, but I'm not quite positive. I know we didn't necessarily do the most entertaining things in this video, but I really do hope you still enjoyed it. If you come to this channel strictly looking for facts about animals or the exhibits that I build, then I'm really sorry this episode might have let you down. This game's called Planet Zoo though, not Planet Exhibit, and sometimes in zoos there's area with no animals. You have to take care of your humans first and foremost, because they're the ones that pay the bills. Luckily, since this is a small zoo, this is probably going to be the only pavilion we build. We'll have other odd shops around the zoo, of course. Heck, we have 2 inside the rainforest alone already, but this is going to be the only area that's specifically dedicated to the people of the zoo, and not the animals. With all that being said though, I think that's going to be it for today. There's only so much you can comment over placing plants, which we've been doing a lot in the past few videos. But stick around and check out the time-lapse. This place turned out really nice, and I think you're going to like it. That's it for me today though. I'll catch you in the next one coming real soon, and there's going to be animals in it, I promise. All of these will be up on the workshop if you guys want them and you think they're good enough. Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch you later. Kingpin out. See you then. This one is